In the heart of a picturesque village, cradled by rolling green hills and a river that danced with the sun's reflection, I found my unlikely sanctuary. My name is Jonathan, and though to the world I am a figure of immense wealth and privilege, owning vast lands and a mansion that many could only dream of, I've always felt a profound solitude that no treasure could dispel. The villagers whom I employed in various capacities were like distant stars, present yet far. Among them was Elena, an immigrant with a gentle grace and a mind sharp as a tack. Unlike others, she didn't keep her head down in submission. Her kindness wasn't just an act of service. It was her nature, and her wisdom soon made her indispensable to me. Despite the vast chasms of our social standings, a quiet friendship blossomed between us. Her laughter brought a warmth to my sprawling, cold halls, and her insights into life were as refreshing as the breezy nights by the river. One evening, driven by a mix of admiration and a desperate pang of loneliness that haunted me like a shadow, I made a decision that sent ripples across the calm waters of our lives. I proposed to Elena. The moment the words left my lips, the world seemed to stand still. I saw the shock in her eyes mirror my own fears. Had I stepped beyond an unseen boundary? Word of my proposal spread like wildfire, disrupting the tranquil life of the village. My family, particularly my sister Isabel, was aghast. Isabel, with her sharp tongue and a mind for machinations, feared that my fortune was now at risk. She saw Elena not as the woman I knew, but as a threat, an interloper who might shift the delicate balance of our family's legacy. Family gatherings became battlegrounds. Whispers filled the corners of my mansion, each murmur a knife slicing through the newfound happiness I thought I had grasped. Isabel's disdain was palpable, and her words, laced with venom, tried to sow doubts in my mind. But every time I looked into Elena's eyes, I found a quiet resolve, a reminder of why my heart had chosen her. This conflict, the clash of class and culture, was just the beginning of our story. A story of how love attempted to bridge the unlikeliest of gaps, setting the stage for a journey neither society nor I could have anticipated. This wasn't just a bedtime story of a rich man and a humble servant. It was my story, our story, taking its first breaths in a world that watched, wary and wide-eyed. The euphoria of the proposal soon gave way to a storm that neither Elena nor I could have predicted. As our engagement became the talk of the village, every whispered congratulations was shadowed by a murmur of doubt, a lingering question of what truly united a reclusive billionaire and his humble servant. Isabel, ever the master of whispers, found the perfect tool to carve her descent into the heart of our engagement. One evening, as the sun set with a fiery passion over the horizon, she summoned the family to the grand drawing room, a place where many of our family's fates had been decided. With a somber tone that thinly veiled her triumphant smirk, she revealed a secret that Elena had guarded with her silent tears. Elena had not simply moved from her country for better prospects. She had fled under circumstances cloaked in scandal and mystery. The air thickened with tension as Isabel spun her narrative, painting Elena as a cunning fugitive who had ensnared me for her own safety. The words struck me like icy shards, not because I believed them, but because of the venom with which they were delivered. Looking around, I saw the faces of my family, once familiar and comforting, now etched with suspicion and judgment. Elena, who had stood by my side with the grace of a queen, now seemed small, her figure shrouded in the accusations that filled the room. The rift between us grew as questions clouded my heart. Trust, the very foundation of our relationship, seemed to tremble under the weight of these revelations. That night, as the mansion lay quiet, the walls echoing with the ghosts of the day's revelations, I found myself walking to Elena's quarters. The hallway seemed longer than ever, each step heavy with the burden of doubt and fear. Standing before her door, I hesitated. The trust we shared was on trial, and my next actions would either be a testament to our bond or a surrender to familial pressure. With a deep breath, I knocked gently. The door opened, and there she stood, her eyes a mirror to the turmoil I felt. We sat and talked through the night, the moon our only witness. She shared her story, her truths shrouded not in deceit, but in pain and necessity. Each word she spoke wove a tapestry of courage and survival, of a woman who had faced the shadows of her past and emerged not unscathed, but undeterred. As dawn painted the sky with strokes of hope, I realized that this was not just a test of our love, but a reflection of my own values. Could I stand by her, not as a billionaire to a servant, but as one soul to another, bound by a love that promised not ease but truth? The rift that Isabel hoped to widen only drew me closer to Elena, as we resolved to face the coming challenges not as two divided by secrets, but as one, united by a deeper understanding. This story, our story, wasn't just about the challenges we faced. It was about how we chose to rise above them, together, rewriting not just our destiny, but the very narrative that the world attempted to dictate for us. In an attempt to mend the fraying edges of our family fabric, I decided to host a grand dinner. This wasn't just any dinner, but one set under the vast canopy of the night sky, where stars twinkled like silent guardians of our fates. The sprawling gardens of my estate, usually a backdrop for solitude, transformed into a place of gathering where the elders of the village and my entire family came together, perhaps with a shared hope beneath their lingering doubts. As the evening began, the air was thick with tension, each greeting strained, as if the words were treading on a fragile bridge. Elena, with her innate grace, moved among the guests, her poise unshaken by the eyes that followed her. I watched her, pride swelling in my heart for the strength she displayed, a stark contrast to the turmoil I knew churned inside her. The long table was set with gleaming silver and crystal, reflecting the flickering lights of candles and the first stars of the night. As the meal began, the clinking of cutlery was the only sound that punctuated the uneasy quiet. I took a deep breath and decided it was time to steer this ship through the storm. Rising to my feet, I cleared my throat, and the table fell silent. Tonight, we come together not just to share a meal, but to share our stories, I began, my voice steadier than I felt. Each of us carries tales of loss, redemption, and love. Tonight, let's honor them. One by one, encouraged by my opening, family members began to share. Isabel spoke of her fears of losing the family legacy, her voice softer, more vulnerable than I had heard in years. My uncle recounted his youthful errors and the painful yet rewarding journey of setting them right. Each story peeled back layers, revealing raw, human truths that connected us more profoundly than bloodline or last names. Then it was Elena's turn. With a gentle calm, she spoke of her homeland, of the conflict that tore it apart, and the heartache of leaving her family behind. Her story, marked by loss but also by an indomitable will to rebuild, touched even the hardest of hearts among us. As she spoke, the stars above seemed to lean closer like ancient witnesses to her truth. When she finished, a silence hung over us, not of tension, but of reflection. I saw tears glisten in the eyes of some, while others simply nodded, a silent acknowledgement of her journey and her courage. That night, as the stories wove a tapestry of shared humanity, the walls between us began to crumble. We saw each other not as titles and roles, but as individuals shaped by our triumphs and tribulations. The dinner didn't magically mend every rift, but it planted the seeds of understanding and respect. As the evening drew to a close, the village elders, with their age-old wisdom, nodded approvingly, their eyes reflecting the flicker of candles and perhaps a flicker of hope. In the soft glow of moonlight as the guests departed, Elena and I walked hand in hand back to the mansion. The night had not erased all doubts, but it had reminded us of the power of shared stories, the first step towards acceptance, and perhaps, in time, unconditional acceptance within the once impenetrable walls of my family. Buoyed by the slow, delicate thawing of tensions at the dinner under the stars, Elena, ever insightful, proposed the next step in our journey towards familial reconciliation, a game night. This wasn't to be just any evening filled with trivial pursuits, but a night where laughter might just bridge the gaps widened by years of unspoken fears and fortified positions. We gathered in the grand living room, a space usually reserved for formal affairs, now transformed into a battlefield of wit and mimicry. The game chosen was charades, simple yet profound in its ability to strip away pretenses, revealing the essence of a person through gestures and expressions. As the game commenced, the air was thick with a hesitant excitement. Each family member took their turn, the room gradually warming up with every correct guess and every failed attempt met with good-natured laughter. Even Isabel, who had always held herself apart with an air of aloof control, stepped into the arena of gestures with a surprising eagerness. The game unfolded, layer by layer, each act revealing more than just the title of a movie or a book. It was during one particularly animated performance by Elena, where she depicted a tale of love against all odds, that the room truly came alive. Her expressions, so full of passion and humor, pulled at the heartstrings and tickled the funny bones of all present. Then came Isabel's turn. The room fell into an anticipative hush as she stood up, her face a mask of concentration. The phrase she had to convey was unexpectedly apt: building bridges. At first, her movements were hesitant, but as the guesses flew wide of the mark, her gestures grew bolder, more poignant. There was a desperation in her mimicry that went beyond the game, touching something deeper within her. No one could guess the phrase, and as the timer ran out, Isabel dropped her arms, her expression one of rare vulnerability. "It's building bridges," she said softly, her eyes scanning the room, landing on Elena and me. She took a deep breath, and in that quiet moment confided, "I've always feared that our family's legacy would crumble, that I would be left alone without love or acceptance." The room was silent, the weight of her words settling around us like dust after a storm. Elena was the first to move, crossing the room with a grace that belied the strength of her resolve. She took Isabel's hand, her voice gentle yet firm. "We are building new bridges, Isabel, not just between two people, but within this family. Your fears are heard, but they won't be faced alone." That night, the game of charades transformed into a candid unveiling of hidden fears and suppressed hopes. Laughter had paved the way for confessions, and Isabel's admission became the cornerstone of a new understanding within our family. The ice that had started to crack at the dinner was now melting, as we all saw the vulnerabilities and yearnings that lay beneath each other's exteriors. As we cleaned up, the room felt lighter, as if the air had been cleared, not just of doubts, but of the shadows of our past reservations. It was a night of revelations of laughter and of truth spoken, perhaps for the first time. As I looked around at the faces now relaxed and smiling, I felt a warmth spreading through my heart, a belief that perhaps, just perhaps, we were on the path to truly becoming a family. Just as the fragile buds of reconciliation began to bloom among us, a storm brewed on the horizon, threatening to uproot everything we had strived to mend. The challenge came not from within, but from a powerful external force, an imposing offer from a rival magnate keen on expanding his own empire by acquiring my estate. The offer was substantial, enough to make any businessman waver, and it came at a time when our family, newly united in spirit, found its foundations tested once more. The news of the impending buyout spread through the family like a cold wind, chilling the warm progress we had made. As we gathered in the library, the tension palpable, Isabel's eyes met mine, a silent acknowledgement that this challenge was beyond personal grievances. It was about our collective legacy, our home. It was Elena who stepped forward with a resolve that belied her gentle demeanor. Her voice steady, she addressed the room. "We have begun to bridge our differences and found strength in our unity. Let us not see this as a setback, but as an opportunity to demonstrate our commitment to this family and to our home." Inspired by her words, we rallied together, pooling our thoughts and resources. Elena, with her keen insight into the village's economy and community, proposed a plan that was as daring as it was brilliant. She suggested leveraging the estate's vast agricultural potential by promoting organic farming and local produce, transforming the estate into a model of sustainable profitability rather than a relic of opulence. Her plan involved not just the conservation of the estate itself, but the revitalization of the entire village, turning the estate into a hub for eco-tourism and community-driven agriculture. This estate has always been more than just land and property. It's a part of the community, integral to the village's identity, Elena explained, her eyes alight with passion. The family, once skeptical of Elena, now listened intently, her vision painting a picture of a future where the estate and the village grew together. Isabel, moved by Elena's genuine concern and clever approach, threw her support behind the plan, her business acumen becoming a crucial pillar in our strategy. Together, we developed the proposal, refining it into a sustainable business model that appealed not only to the family, but also to the broader community. who were eager to support an initiative that promised growth and stability for the village. The rivals' offer, with its cold corporate undertones, could not compete with the heart and soul we poured into our counter-proposal. When the time came to present our plan to the rival magnate, our united front was unshakable. Elena, standing by my side, articulated our vision with such conviction that even our adversary could not help but see the value in what we wished to preserve and enhance. The rival withdrew his offer, impressed by our dedication and the innovative plan we had put forth. What had begun as a financial crisis had transformed into a catalyst for unity, bringing the family closer together and solidifying Elena's place within it, not just as a member, but as a visionary leader. As we celebrated our victory, the estate no longer just a symbol of wealth, but a beacon of hope and renewal. I looked at Elena with a renewed sense of love and admiration. Together, we had turned a challenge into a triumph, proving that the true worth of our legacy was not in its opulence, but in the hearts and minds of the people who cherished it. As the leaves turned golden and the air filled with the crisp promise of autumn, the estate, once a battleground of wills and fears, transformed into the stage for a celebration of love and unity. The wedding of Elena and me was not just an event. It was a profound symbol of our journey, a journey that had melded two very different worlds into one harmonious life. The ceremony was held in the very heart of the estate, under the ancient oak tree that had stood as a silent witness to the estate's century-old history. The tree was adorned with lights and flowers, its branches stretching out like arms ready to embrace the new beginnings. As we stood there, hand in hand, with the soft autumn sun setting behind us, the air was thick with the sweet scent of roses and the softer scent of promises kept. The vows we exchanged were simple, yet steeped in the deep understanding we had nurtured through our trials. With each word, we didn't just promise to love and cherish each other. We vowed to continue building the bridges of understanding and cooperation that had brought our family together. Each "I do" was not just an agreement between two people, but an affirmation of the unity and resilience of an entire family that had learned to look beyond materialistic concerns and misunderstandings. Isabel, once a skeptic, stood by, her eyes not dry, as she witnessed the culmination of a transformation, not just in her brother and Elena, but in herself. Her earlier fears had given way to a genuine joy for the union that promised to fortify the family's legacy with something far stronger than wealth: love and mutual respect. The guests, comprising family, friends, and villagers, were a testament to the blended world we now embraced. Their smiles and heartfelt congratulations echoed around the oak tree, weaving a tapestry of community and familial warmth that felt like the truest kind of wealth. As the evening progressed, the celebrations moved from solemn vows to joyful festivity. Music filled the air, a lively tune that had everyone's feet tapping. The dance floor was a whirl of colors, laughter ringing louder than the music, as old resentments gave way to new friendships and deeper bonds. Looking around at the jubilant faces, feeling Elena's hand in mine, I realized that this wedding was more than a fairy tale ending. It was a vivid beginning, the first chapter of a richer, more inclusive story. Our story had been one of overcoming, not just external challenges, but the internal landscapes of our own prejudices and fears. As the night drew to a close, with stars now twinkling in approval overhead, our family stood together, a united front ready to face whatever the future might hold with love and cooperation. The estate, our home, no longer just a symbol of old wealth, but a living, breathing testament to the power of love, understanding, and the relentless human spirit to find unity in diversity. This was not the end of our story. It was a beautiful continuation, a promise carried on the breeze, whispering of hope, unity, and endless possibilities. The triumph was not just ours, but shared by every heart that believed in us, every soul that had cheered for us from the sidelines, and every quiet supporter who had hoped for a day when love would truly conquer all.